Hello, and welcome to Appleton Engaged. I'm your host, Timber Smith, DEI coordinator for the city of Appleton.
And I'm Andy Anam, the communications manager for the city.
And Appleton Engaged is a podcast that explores the many people, organizations, and resources that make our community a great place to live, work, and play. So whether you're a longtime resident or just getting to know Appleton, join us as we learn more about our community together.
This is a very special episode because it's a city episode and about a team that talks about connecting the Fox cities.
Oh, no doubt. I'm excited about it because I really do believe that this is the resource that's the great equalizer.
Absolutely.
It provides equity when people are able to get to the places that they need to get to for the things that they need to get to for.
Absolutely. It's like connecting the hearts on wheels.
Facts. So this week's guest is Ronald McDonald, General Manager of Valley Transit. Hey, Ron, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing well, thanks.
I'm doing good. Are you ready to jump in?
I am.
Okay. Ron, can you please share a little something about yourself and your connection to Appleton and the Fox Cities region?
Sure. I'm originally from Green Bay, and I've been in the Fox Cities, specifically in Appleton, for about 8 years now. Love it here. Absolutely love the Fox Cities.
Yeah, but you weren't that far away in Green Bay.
I wasn't, but I've moved around a bit. I've lived in Florida probably 15 years out of my life. I've lived in the Gatlinburg, Tennessee area. And I've bounced around a little bit, but I've settled down and say almost 8 years in Appleton now.
Okay. Well, don't be trying to move around anymore, Ron. We're keeping you.
Yeah, we're too busy to move now. We got a lot of things going on.
Ron, can you please tell us about Valley Transit?
Absolutely. So Valley Transit is a regional system throughout the entire Fox Cities. It's actually owned and operated by the city of Appleton, but we partner with 8 other municipalities in the Fox Cities. We operate from Kaukauna all the way to Neenah through a total of 9 municipalities. We operate in all 3 counties within our Fox Cities region. Our service area is about 117 square miles, and we provide services to a population base in excess of 200,000. That's our service area.
200,000?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Valley Transit is more than just buses, right?
It is, and I'm glad you've brought that up, Timber. So everybody thinks of Valley Transit and sees the big buses going down the street. And we also have a smaller service where we use smaller vans in the VT2 service, and that encompasses a contractual relationship we have. And that VT2 service provides, about a half a dozen different services, whether it's through Outagamie County, whether it's through Northern Winnebago Dial-A-Ride, whether it's our VT2 Americans with Disabilities Transportation, or whether it's our VT Connector service. There's a whole host of opportunities for people out there.
So, Ron, tell us about the question I'm more excited about, the federal funding the Valley Transit just received.
Yeah, boy, we're excited too. And so we were just blessed to receive the funding we did. On July 8th, I believe, we were noticed that we were going to receive $25 million from the RAISE grant initiative, and that will help us build a new transit center downtown, which is desperately needed. This is a project that we identified several years ago that would need to be done, and then Mayor Woodford commissioned a College North neighborhood study, and there was 2 projects that surfaced at the top 2 initiatives that should be taken care of as part of that College North study. Number 1 was the library, and number 2 was the transit center. So as we know, the library's pretty well getting close to completion, and the transit center, we just received $25 million to provide that project. And then shortly after that, we received a $12 million grant to finish the work on our Whitman Administrative and Maintenance Facility. So we've already started phase 1. We used some of our CARES Act money to do that. And now the Federal Transit Administration awarded us with $12 million to finish that. So within the last few weeks, we were awarded $37 million that comes into the Fox Cities, and 2 very worthy projects that had to get done. We don't have to go to the local taxpayers to ask for more money for this. And I know our transit center project, for instance, a consultant looked at it and estimated that that project alone, either directly or indirectly, will support about 510 jobs throughout that project.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's cool stuff. That's 510 jobs in the Fox cities that we're going to support with that project. Taking this money that was going to be distributed to somebody. If it wasn't Appleton, it would have probably gone to California or New York or somewhere else. We got it back to Appleton and the Fox cities, and we're going to support over 500 jobs in the Fox cities. I think that's just cool stuff, and we're taking care of the infrastructure that we desperately needed.
Well, can you tell us more about that, Ron? Because, we got to kind of have a little conversation before we started recording here. And what is the age of our current transit center?
Sure. So it's over 30 years old. It's outdated. It doesn't meet the ADA accessibilities. It just needs complete renovation, and it's the HVAC system, the plumbing, everything just needs to be gone through. So what we're going to do is our plan is to build a new structure right at that same location, and our bus bays will all be undercover. So it'll be just a rooftop where the buses can drive underneath, and we're all well aware of what winters are in Wisconsin, so we won't have ice and snow to contribute to somebody's safety hazards, slipping on ice, those kinds of things. Day like we had just a little bit earlier today, it was just downpour raining. They would be undercover and not have to withstand that. So we're going to have the lower section will be the transit center. We will have covered bays for up to 14 buses. That includes Valley Transit buses. That also includes the over-the-road buses, and like Amtrak Thruway service comes through, Lamer's bus lines comes through, the Megabus comes through. So all of those come through our facility and provide transportation options for everybody in the Fox cities. We'll build this lower floor, again, which will be the transit center, and then we are going to enter into an agreement with a private developer that intends to put affordable housing, or at least some component of affordable housing, above us. So we've seen a number of different renderings of what people's vision is, and so we'll be selecting a developer within the next few months and start the design phase. But ultimately, we're looking at a multi-story residential facility right on top of the transit center.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
It is beyond cool, just because of this is also happening at a time when we're going to have a new library right next door.
It is, and we'll complement that real well. We're looking in the design phase, and how do we complement the library? How do we work together in the areas between the transit center and the library? What options are available to us? And the other side of this is, everybody, at least most people, are aware that there's a significant housing shortage, and especially on the affordability side. We have an opportunity to increase housing in downtown Appleton, which has been highly sought after, and we're nowhere near where we should be with the number of units. So we're able to, take care of the transfer project and get some housing units that are desperately needed.
So, Ron, you just touched upon that there will be no tax implications on the taxpayer. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because sometimes people have these misconceptions that, these are all taxpayers' money, but that's not the case. So if you can just clarify that a bit.
Sure, and that's a good point, Andy. So what I meant by that was the federal government has allocated, I think it was $1.5 billion for their RAISE grant program, their infrastructure program. And they are going to spend that $1.5 billion without question. It's just a matter of where they're going to send it to. And we had an infrastructure project, again, that we've identified several years ago. And I and my team made a concerted effort to go after this federal dollars that was going to be sent somewhere. Because if we didn't get that, we still had an infrastructure project that is desperately needed. And I would have had to go to the Common Council and all the rest of the taxpayers and say, well, I know that, it doesn't sound like a good idea, but we need to build a new transit center. We now were able to take care of this money that the federal government was already going to send somewhere. We were able to bring that back to the Fox cities, take care of this critical infrastructure need, and not have to be a bigger burden on the local taxpayer.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the taxpayers will too.
I think so. Wisconsin tends to trail other states in the amount of money we bring back into the state. I mean, all of us pay federal taxes and it goes, it seems like, elsewhere, and we're not as good at getting money back into the state of Wisconsin. So this is money that all of us have paid into, and now we're
Right.
bringing it back in, and we're going to see an actual benefit for an infrastructure project that is critically needed. So it's just a win-win all the way around.
Now, I got the opportunity to sit in on some of the design ideas at the beginning. And can you share with the Appleton Engaged listeners some of the things that might be part of the new transit center?
Sure. I mean, there was a number of things that we wanted to look at. First and foremost was safety and security.
Yes.
We wanted to rein in control. We wanted to be able to control our own campus with what was going on. So we actually have in the conceptual design, we haven't gotten to the actual design, but the conceptual design, we actually have a Appleton Police Department substation built in there where their officers can come in and do some work. It'll also be manned by our private security firm, but we've taken a lot of efforts to increase security and safety. We also wanted to look at passenger safety, and one of the things we looked at were conflict points where there's potential conflict with other traffic. There's cars coming through, even in our transit center, that there's not supposed to be any cars. You know, we probably get, 20, 30, 40 cars a day coming through there that have no business being in there, and people are having to stop crossing the street because cars are barreling through. And so we've designed or conceptually designed a staging area to avoid the traffic conflicts for the pedestrians, because the last thing we want to see is somebody get hurt seriously. So we've done a lot of those things. We also are looking at the future for sustainability and resiliency. You know, we have a fleet of buses right now where our oldest is a 2017, so we're not looking at replacing a lot of buses in the near future, but we know that we're not going to be able to buy diesel buses. The federal government has pretty much made it clear that that's not the future. The future is some sort of sustainable resources. So we're looking at, quite frankly, using some solar power, and with the use of solar, making some hydrogen, and using hydrogen to charge batteries and fuel a generator. So if the system goes down, we can run our system off-grid on a generator. So we want to tap into some hydrogen, and ultimately we want to transition our fleet, or be prepared to transition our fleet to a hydroelectric bus of sorts. That gives us the ability to operate the bus an entire day, whereas the overall just electric buses don't work. I'm not a fan of those. The hydroelectric is pretty cool. Interestingly enough, I do have some grant money where I'm able to buy 2 hydrogen electric trolley buses when we're prepared for it. So I think we have a really cool story to tell in the Fox Cities, and specifically in Appleton. So I don't know how many of your listeners know it, but the city of Appleton was one of the first, and if not the very first, successful hydroelectric streetcar system in the country. So they generated their own electricity, ran the streetcar system for years. Ultimately, a transition to rubber buses, and we're here today. But if we are able to get these electric trolleys and take water with the use of solar, convert that into hydrogen, run the buses on a hydrogen fuel cell electric battery output, the buses will then be, the only exhaust coming out of those buses will be water vapor from the hydrogen burning in the fuel cell. We'll be back using water, in essence, to power our buses. I mean, not exactly the same thing, but it's a pretty cool full circle to come around from a hydroelectric trolley to getting into a hydrogen electric trolley that'll exhaust the water vapor out the back of the bus. I think that's just a cool story to tell, and the technology is there to do it. There are some other systems around the country doing that right now, and so we're looking to take advantage of that. And to me, that's cutting edge, and you know, we like being on the cutting edge. We don't want to be on the bleeding edge of things. We want somebody else doing things and know what they're doing, and before we have to do something that really hurts us. So we're trying to protect our taxpayers also, but we want to be prepared for the future. So that's the direction we're heading.
That is so amazing. So what's the completion date on the projects?
So on the 2 projects, so the Whitman Avenue project, I'm hoping to put out a bid for construction very early next year, January, hopefully maybe February, put out a bid for construction. I'd like to get that building done in 2026 if possible, because then in 2026, we're hoping we're to a point where we could break ground on the transit center we don't have enough horsepower internally to do these two projects. I'll be honest with you. Construction projects is not my background. I'm a transit guy. You know, I can run the buses and, you know, yes, I'll be involved in these projects, but there's people far smarter than I am in that area. And but we want to try and get one project done before we get the other started. So hoping 26 will get done on the offices and maintenance facility, and then break ground in 26 at the transit center, and hopefully get that completed by 2028.
Can we talk about that other project?
Yeah,
What's happening there?
sure. So that facility, I don't know, probably 40 years old. Again, completely outdated, not ADA accessible. We were busting at the seams. So, you know, just as an example, our training and conference room area, if we had more than 6 people in it at a time, you were literally touching elbows with people. That's not conducive to having a training session and training your professional staff and be appropriate workspace. So we are expanding. Right now, phase 1 is expanding the administrative offices, and then phase 2 will be expanding the maintenance area and the bus storage system. With that, we will also be putting a solar and hydrogen array in there. And we really want to be able to, if not entirely, almost entirely, have that building operating without using purchased electricity. Between the solar and the hydrogen and using some artificial intelligence to tell us when we're supposed to be using the hydrogen versus the solar and all of those things. Again, this is designed by somebody smarter than me in this area. But, you know, we think we can get it to basically a point where we can run the system almost entirely without having to purchase utilities, electricity and such.
Now, Ron, I've been lucky enough to get a tour from you for that facility, and I don't think that our people know all that facility actually is. I mean, I understand, buses get fixed there. There's a really cool bus wash there. What else happens at that location?
Sure. So, you know, the administrative side of the business starts there. And people see the buses and they see a bus driver and they assume that that's Valley Transit. Well, you know, we apply for grants. We get grants. That's very extensive work going into those types of things. And when you get money from the federal government, there's a lot of red tape attached to that, which there should be. I don't have a problem with that, but it's very labor intensive. So you have to have people with expertise on how to administrate these funds and make sure that they're used appropriately and things like that. So we do those kinds of things. We do all the behind the scenes work on operating a transit system there. We have our mobility management team there. So we have Sarah, who's our mobility manager. We have Steph, our travel trainer. So people can come in there and they'll actually bring people into our offices and bring them out into a bus out in the garage. And if they're using a mobility device, for instance, they'll bring them out in the garage and teach them how to get their wheelchair on the bus and back into our securement area so they can do it independently. They don't have to feel embarrassed trying to learn how to do it the first time out in front of everybody. We'll take them in close quarters and help them so they look like a pro the first time they're doing it. And so we do all kinds of things like that. We sell tickets and passes, distribute lost and found, a lot of things.
So, Ron, what is that one thing you wish people would have known about the transit services? Because I know that, a lot of people have never been on buses, because I come from India where people use public transport on a large scale. But that's not the case here. So what do you think people should have known? It's a myth about the transit services and people need to go on the buses to actually understand what it means?
Well, I've been doing this a long time, Andy, so, I've heard a couple of comments over the years that just kind of make me shake my head a little bit. Unfortunately, I've heard comments, well, it's those people riding the bus, and the bus isn't for me. That's for other people who, don't have any other alternative. And certainly there are some where, because of personal circumstances, that might be their mode of transportation. Maybe for whatever reason, there's a health problem, they can't get their license, so they use it. But there are a lot of other people who use a system from time to time for various other things. Cars break down, they get on the bus, it's very easy to get transportation. I think what I've also heard people say, well, it's basically a social service agency. Well, no, not at all. Over 54% of our ridership has been employment-related transportation. People going to or from work or work instruction, that type of thing, 54% of the ridership is work-based transportation. We're critical infrastructure in the Fox cities, and all transit systems are, but we're critical infrastructure. When things are bad, we're out there. We're helping people get connected throughout the community and throughout the Fox cities, and so we're there. And come give us a try. It's probably, if you rode it as a kid, I bet it's far different today than when you rode it today. The buses are far different.
Oh, no, those things are amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was a bus driver. Matter of fact, I didn't have a car until I was 21. So me and the bus were best friends.
Yeah, they're nice today. They ride us. They're quiet. We have chargers on every seat between where the two passengers sit. There's a USB plug where they can plug in their cell phones and charge their phones while they're going down the road, or they can make sure they can listen to your podcasts, while they're riding down the road.
That's right.
And, so yeah, it's, come on, give us a try.
Where do you see public transportation headed in the future?
I think it's going to increase. All the studies that I've been seeing, let me back up for just a second, my train of thought. I've suggested to people that transit was going to increase, and I've been saying this for over 20 years, and I've had a lot of people look at me and tell me, you're full of baloney. But, my take on this, when the baby boomers start retiring, they're going to remain active. They're far different than what their parents were. They're active. And things happen where they can't drive as much, and they're still going to want to be active, whether it's just going to the senior center or whatever. We need to have public transportation available for them so they can still be connected in the Fox cities. So I saw that as an opportunity for growth, and I think that's still coming as we're seeing more and more baby boomers aging more, and I fit that role, by the way. So I'm talking about people like myself. When they're going to remain active. So I think there's that opportunity. And then on the other end of that spectrum, we know that many of the millennials are saying, you know what, I really don't want to own a car. I want to live maybe in the downtown area. I want to be able to walk. I might want to take my bike. Or you know what, maybe if I want to go, let's say, to Walmart, that's a long way on my bike, but dang, I can hop on the bus, throw my bike on the front of the bus, and I can ride my bus out to Walmart and maybe go for a ride on my bike, further out. So use their bike as a first mile, last mile. So I see it increasing. We're seeing a movement of the population. For many years, people wanted to get out of the downtowns. They wanted to go out into the suburbs. And now we're seeing a resurgence of the downtown where people want to relocate back into downtown. Talking about housing in the downtown area again. People want to locate downtown. I think that's conducive to better transit service. With you have a density of population in the downtown areas, I think that's really an opportunity for us to grow transit.
So now it's a story time.
Okay.
You tell me a story which is close to your heart, which shows the impact of Valley Transit in the region. It could be anything, your rendezvous with a passenger or whatever it comes to your mind, because you have been in the transit business as a very revered person. Not many people know that, he's one of the most passionate person I have ever seen when it comes to transit, and so is his team. We had the pleasure of interviewing two of them, and we cannot wait to hear a story from you.
Gosh, there's so many, and I'll just give you one example. I had a representative who was a state senator at the time. He's not anymore, but he was a state senator at the time when I used to visit him when I was in Madison, and talk about transit, and he was very cordial. He listened to what I had to say, but never used transit a lot himself, or I don't know that he ever did. And he was a corporate executive and then went on into the state Senate. And so at one point we said, come when you're back in the Fox Cities, give us a call. We'll go for a bus ride and just show you what transit's all about. So by golly, he called us up and said, I want to go for a bus ride. And we got onto Route 30 to take a ride down to Neenah. And this individual was very interested in, what does it look like on a transit bus? And so we started going down the road, and he started asking people on the bus, well, why are you riding Valley Transit today? And the first woman he talked to said, well, I'm going to the doctor's office. I'm just going to go up here to Midway Road, and I have to get off, and I'm going to go see my doctor right down the street. So I need it for medical purposes. And then there was a younger individual in the back of the bus, and he went back to say, why are you riding today? He said, well, I'm an engineering student at University of Wisconsin. My mother's become ill. She has breast cancer. I've moved home. I've relocated back home to care for my mother. But the only job I can find is retail. I have to have buses. As a matter of fact, if you had ridership, if you had service on Sundays, I could really do my job better. But anyhow, he said, I came back from school, dropped out of school to help my mother, and I'm using the bus to get back and forth to work. And then further down the road, a younger gal was waiting at a bus stop up in front of us with a bicycle. And this individual happens to be a bicycle enthusiast. So he said, I'm going to go watch this and check this out. And this young gal puts her bike on the bus, and we were down in Neenah by this point. Puts the bike on the bus and gets on. He said, well, what are you doing? Well, normally I'd be going to school, but I'm off today. He said, what do you mean? You use this bus to go to school? Well, yeah, I live in Neenah, but I use school choice. I go to school in Appleton, so I have to ride my bike about a mile or two to the bus stop. I put my bike on the bus. I ride the bus in Neenah to the Neenah transfer point. I transfer to the Route 30 bus, go into downtown Appleton. I then take my bus and transfer my bike and transfer to another bus so I can get to middle school every day. She was riding 3 different buses to get to school someday. And I was like, by golly, I want to hire that girl when she's older. If she's got that much tenacity to go to school, I want her to work for us. But my point of this individual was somebody who really had never experienced and sat back. And I asked him a week or two later, I said, what did you think of that whole experience? He said, I've listened to you all these years, and you always gave me a piece of paper that showed me the statistics of what you do. And so it didn't mean much to me. But when I got on there and saw the passengers and talked to the passengers today and heard their stories, one was going to a doctor, one had to go to work because his mom was sick, had to drop out of the University of Wisconsin. Another one's using it to go to middle school. We actually picked up another passenger who was using a mobility device, got on, secured themselves in a wheelchair, and went on. He says, I just never dreamt what this was. I can't tell you the impact this has made for me. And so those kinds of stories are just phenomenal. And again, this was an elected official, a state senator, and just beside himself what he didn't understand and what he does today. So that was a cool story.
Absolutely. And you remember we had a cheerleader for you during the Citizens Academy too. So that's what the beauty of Valley Transit.
Yes.
Very much so.
Yes.
Ron, is there anything that the community can do to be helpful?
Well, I would just say, continue to be supportive of Valley Transit. Maybe give us a try someday. Give us a shout out. Give it a try. If you need a ride somewhere, you can certainly call our main number at 832-5800 and ask for directions on how to do it. We'll be glad to help you through it. But just continue to support us. Give us a try. I have to say, I've worked in multiple cities in transportation, and the Fox Cities is the most supportive area that I've been in, and I just want to thank those individuals, our citizens out there. But just give us a try, and I think you'll be surprised.
Do we still need bus drivers?
We do, Timber. We do need bus drivers. So we've been short for years. So we did modify some of our service hours because of the shortage of drivers. So on weekdays, all of the buses are back to the barn about before 7 o'clock at night, and on Saturdays are back to the barn before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What we were hearing from applicants is, I don't want to work nights anymore. It was very difficult to find people to do that. So what we did is we transitioned people onto one of our VT2 van services, our VT connector service, so people would have an option for transportation. But we're still short of drivers. Even with the significant changes we make, we're still about 3 or 4 full-time drivers short. So yes, if your listeners out there are interested or know somebody who's interested, have them give us a call. We really like people who have a CDL with a passenger endorsement, but if you don't, we also do training. We'll train somebody to be a bus driver. So just you can go to our website, myvalleytransit.com, and take a look at what it takes to be a bus driver.
So who can people contact if they want to learn more?
What I would say is if you want to learn more about Valley Transit, just call our main number, 920-832-5800. And if you just ask whoever's answering the call, what your question is, they can certainly direct it. Again, we'll be glad to talk about what types of services might be available to you, whether it's the bus or one of the small van services or maybe a combination of those. or if there's another service that might be able to better suit you. At Valley Transit, we don't believe we're the be-all, end-all for everybody, but we want to assist people. We want to provide people the answers they're looking for, try to find an answer for them. So give us a call. We'll direct it. If you're uneasy and want to learn how to ride the bus, we have travel trainer that'll come out and assist you in learning how to ride the bus.
Yes, we do. And they are amazing. Is there any additional information that you feel that's important for our Appleton Engage listeners to know that maybe we didn't ask a question about?
Gosh, I could probably go on and on and on, and I don't want to bore people. But again, we're out on the streets, 6 days a week, and we're here to serve the citizens of the Fox cities. And our tagline is connecting the Fox cities, and really that's our belief, and that's our core of what we're trying to get to, is just connecting to the people in the Fox cities, getting there from point A to point B safely. And that's just what we do.
Time for some shout out. So my shout out goes to you and your teams, but who do you want to send your shout out to?
Well, you know what? I think most of all, I do want to shout out to my team as well. We did make those hard decisions to transition from the fixed route buses to the van services. But without a team of drivers, we would have had to do that a year or two ago. If we didn't have the team in place that we did, they worked through things with us. They worked their tails off. And it's one of the hardest working groups that I've been a part of. I can't say enough what a dedicated bunch of individuals we have over there. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them. And the whole team. We have a fantastic team that's been put together over there. And I'm just proud to be part of that team.
Okay. I agree with you, Ron. Your team is amazing. At this time, and thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're going to start wrapping up this episode. Appleton Engage listeners, thank you for giving us your minds, for giving us your ears, for caring about another amazing resource in our city, in our region, helping to make this a better place to live. We are trying to become the #1 podcast in all of Wisconsin, definitely Northeast Wisconsin, and we need your help to do that. So if you have any questions that you would like us to ask our guests, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know. If you would like to be a guest, if you'd like to recommend a guest, reach out to us at diversity@appleton.org. Once again, that is diversity@appleton.org, and let us know how we can be a better podcast. Also, we think we got something very special here with Appleton Engaged, and the more ears that get to learn about this podcast and the amazing resources that we have in this region, we think the better community we're creating. But to do that, I need your help with that. So while you're listening to this podcast, take a moment and press the review button. Give us a review and also give us a rating. Those things increase our analytics, and the better analytics we have, the more eyes and ears learn about this great resource known as Appleton Engaged.
Thank you, Ron, for your insights and leadership. If you haven't tried the Valley Transit, I say go today and ride the bus. And to our listeners who tuned in, stay connected with Valley Transit, check out their services, go to their website, and support them in their efforts for sustainability and accessibility across ages and abilities. With that, until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and stay engaged.